Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to share a little bit more about my 2023 reading year. Today I'm going to be sharing a bunch of graphs and stats with you. So if that's your thing, stick around. But I keep in my bullet journal some stats as I'm reading throughout the year. I keep track of how many books I read a month, the format, my ratings, the target audience, when it was published, the genres, and also I used to keep track, well, I did this year, if it made me laugh or cry, but I didn't have that many laugh or cries this year. Last year I made a separate video about that, but I'll just quickly tell you that. So one that really made me laugh is The Christmas Wish by Lindsay Kelk. I read it during Christmas in July, and that's the one thing that I remember about that book. Books that made me cry: Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, Happy Place by Emily Henry, The Collected Regrets of Clover by Miki Bramer, and Shark Heart by Emily Hebeck. But yeah, now I want to go ahead and get into the other more important stats. So for the year of 2023, I'm going to break it down by month and let you know how many books I read each month. And then I will pop in a graph that will kind of show you a little bit more. So in January, I read 21 books. In February, I read 15 books. March, 25 books. April, 12 books. May, 18 books. June, 18 books. July, 17 books. August, 13 books. September, 18 books. October, 20 books. November, 18 books. And December, 13 books. And that averages out. I have the stats here. So you can see this graph. You can tell that March was the month that I read the most with 12%. And then next would be October with 9.6%. I did have a few months where I read, 18 books or like 17 books. So that was like the 8.7, 8.7. And then we have an 8.2 in July. But yeah, that's kind of how it went month by month. Not sure how it's going to pan out next year. We shall see. Next, let's talk about the format. I talk about hybrid reading a lot, which is where I have the physical book and I am also listening to the audiobook. And I made it kind of a low-key goal that I wanted to make sure that I was still picking up books and reading them physically if I couldn't get my hands on a physical book, because I do find myself shying away from books that don't have audiobooks now, or I will only read a book once I have the audiobook. Trying to get a little bit better about that in the new year, but as you can see from this graph, I read 40 physical books this year. I would say most of those are graphic novels and comics, but still 40, that's nothing to shy away from. I ended up reading a total of 208 books. So that's where all of these stats are coming from. So 40 physical books. Audiobooks, I only read 2 audiobooks. But that means I only listened to the audio. I had no physical book to go along with it. And ebooks, I also read 2. I do have a Kindle. I never use it. I would like to say I'm a Kindle girly, but until I clear off my TBR shelf, I just don't see that happening. And then obviously the biggest stat is I read 164 combo, like hybrid reading with the physical book and the audio. So that breaks down to physical books, I read 19.2%, audio and ebook are each 1% each, and for the hybrid reading, 78.8%. You can see I do a lot of audiobooks. Okay, now let's move on to my ratings. I did 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 stars, not rated, and DNFs. I had 29 5-star reads. I had 51 4-star reads. I had 78 3-star reads. I had 30 2-star reads. I had 13 1-star reads, and I had 3 books that I did not rate and 4 books that I DNF'd. So I feel like I DNF'd fewer than I ever have before, so that's kind of nice. That breaks down to me having the largest chunk in the 3-star realm. I had 37.5% 3-star reads. The next was 4-star reads at 24.5, and then 2 stars is above the 5 stars with 14.4. But when I rate a book 2 stars, it means that I didn't particularly like it. I just thought it was okay. Like, it wasn't the most terrible book, but I really didn't enjoy it that much. But it means that it was okay, and I would still recommend it, because for the right audience, I think it could really, really work. So now let's talk about the target audience. I track middle grade, young adult, and adult, because I do read all 3. I read 17 middle grade books. I read 23 young adult books, which is kind of shocking because I have like strayed away from young adult, but the naturals, it's pulling me in, y'all. So, and then 168 adult books. So that is definitely where the majority of my reading is. So 8.2% middle grade, 11.1% YA, and 80.8 for adult. I'm back. I forgot a crucial stat to share with you. So let's dive back into my bullet journal. I can't believe I forgot this, but I went to go edit it and I was like, I didn't talk about this. So I wanted to talk about when the books were published, because I thought that was very interesting. Okay, so sorry. I keep track of arcs that I read. I did not read any arcs this year, or in 2023. For new releases, so 2023 releases, I read 76. Books published in 2022, I read 43. Books in 2021, I read 27. Books in 2020, I read 17. And older books, older than 2020, 45. So an overwhelming amount of new releases this year, which makes me very, very excited. Looking at the chart now, we have 0% arcs, 36.5% of new releases, 20.7% published in 2022, 13% published in 2021, 8.2% in 2020, and 21.6% published previous to 2020. So my older books and my newer books are the ones that actually got read in 2020. And now back to the regular video. Moving on to my genres now. These are the ones that I track. I'm sure there's other ones, and I have had questions about how I track the genres, because I do like thrillers and mysteries separately. I have like literary, but I also have contemporary. And well, let me go ahead and just go through the genres that I track. Okay, so I keep track of contemporary, dystopian, fantasy, historical, horror, literary, nonfiction, romance, sci-fi, thriller, mystery, classics, poetry, and then comics and graphic novels. I include all in one category. So how I do it is I pick one genre for the book that I'm reading, and it's either like the main genre, like say it's like a historical romance. I would probably still put that in the romance category, because even though it is historical, it's a romance book at the end of the day. So that's how I would categorize it. Maybe there is a, I don't know, fantasy book that has romance in it. I'm going to count it as a fantasy book. Say there is a, I don't know how I could describe the rest, but say that I think a book is more contemporary than it is romance, I'll put contemporary. But if I'm kind of stuck and I'm like, I don't really know what the main genre is, I will look it up on Goodreads, and whatever the first genre listed is the one that I go with. But most of the times I make the decision myself. All right, so I read 24 contemporary books, only 1 dystopian, 5 fantasy books. I read 6 historical books, 28 horror books, 9 literary, 8 nonfiction. I read 27 romance books, 4 sci-fi books, 50 2 thriller books, which is obviously the biggest like piece of the pie. I read 17 mystery books, which some of those are like cozy mysteries, and then some of those could be like locked room mysteries. I only read 1 classic. I did not read any poetry in 2023. I don't know if I'm getting out of it. I don't know why I didn't gravitate towards it. I definitely used to read a lot more, but I haven't bought any new poetry in a very long time. I do have some on my shelf though, so we'll see what happens with that moving forward. And then I read 26 comic graphic novels. I think they all were graphic novels. I would have to like look back at each individual one and make sure, but I'm pretty sure it was 26 graphic novels. So with that said, that means that I read 11.5% contemporary, only 0.5% for dystopian, 2.4% for fantasy, 2.9% for historical, 13.5% for horror, 4.3% for literary, 3.8% for nonfiction, 13% for romance, only 1.9% for sci-fi. 25% of my reading in 2023 was thriller, and I am so ecstatic about that. It is my favorite genre, and that stat makes me very happy. And honestly, I want that number to be higher next year. Mystery 8.2, and if you combine those two, it's over 30. Let's see, classic 0.5% for my 1 classic book that I read, poetry 0%, and comic graphic novel 12.5%. I love comics and graphic novels, but I feel like that's a big percent. Like that's over contemporary. That's, I don't know, the only thing higher is romance, but only like by 0.5%. So I don't know what my reading is going to look like this year. I haven't really set that many reading goals, honestly, but those are the stats that I wanted to share with you today. Let me know if there are any other stats that you are curious about that I could add to my list for next year, because I definitely want to revisit this and compare it against this year. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're all having a lovely day or night. If you're looking for a secret emoji that you can leave down below, I think there's a piece of paper that has like a graph on it or something like that. So if you can leave that emoji, or I don't know, leave a thumbs up or something, since I did awesome this year. I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye friends.